of those iconic characters, and then you do what's called a clean pass, so to do like a clean plate, where it's essentially me doing Whistle While You Work to nobody.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're all having a great and wonderful day. Well, what we have here is just another straight epic failure of Snow White. Yeah, that's right. Because apparently Rachel Zegler just can't stop opening her mouth. And every time that she opens her mouth, it's like a huge meteor comes crashing down onto Disney and Snow White the movie and tumbles it into more oblivion where they make less money. Because apparently Rachel Zegler is now blaming white people. Yeah, that's right. Or specifically her white executives. So it's actually quite hilarious onto why she's doing this. It makes no sense, but of course, it doesn't make sense in Rachel Zegler's mind. So what we have here from the New York Post saying, Rachel Zegler slams white executives who asked her to prove her Latin heritage for West Side Story role. Oh, God. When will this woman learn? It's like she's a walking disaster. She's a walking disaster, and you just can't wait to believe it. She's gonna destroy another movie because she just can't keep her bloody mouth shut. She's awful. Why are people even hiring her? Goes on to say here, Rachel Zegler claimed that white executives asked her to prove her Latin heritage during the casting process for West Side Story. The actress whose latest role sees her star in the live-action Snow White opened up about being repeatedly questioned over her identity ahead of landing the part in Steven Spielberg's 2021 film. There's confusion because I don't have a single course of Latin in my name, Zegler told Allure Tuesday. When I was in the running for Maria and the West Side Story, they kept calling to ask if I was legit. I remember thinking, do you want me to bring my abuela? And I will. I'll bring her into the studio if you want me to meet her. The 23-year-old said she was surprised to see a bunch of white executives have you prove your identity to them before she ultimately secured the role, which launched her to stardom in 2019. Stardom? Stardom. I don't know about stardom is a really correct word here. Huge controversial figure might be a better term for this, because she has no stardom. The very first of her movie is collapsing here. It is doing god-awful. We have this saying, the actress won a Golden Globe for Best Actress in Musical or Comedy 2021 for her starring role. Zegler, who's from Hackensack, New Jersey, has Colombian and Polish roots. Her grandmother emigrated from Venezuela, Colombia to the U.S. in the 1960s, while her father, Craig, is of Polish descent. It's an interesting experience being part of the dystopia in the current climate we live in, she added, but I love being Colombian. The actress admitted that her singing skills ultimately led her to land the titular role in Snow White in 2021. The reality is, I was given a chance because I could sing, she said after being asked her thoughts about the Rachel Latina scoring the role. My only prayer for the future of diversity and inclusion is that we invest in and nurture talent no matter what they look like. She goes on to say here, Zegler added that it's so important for the next generation to see Snow White and other films like it that portray a battle of good versus evil. Well, fortunately for you, Zegler, you made yourself to be the evil one here. So there's good, there's both evils in the movie? To realize there's nothing wrong with choosing to do what's right and that it doesn't have to be with anger or a clenched fist, she said in an interview. So, yeah, she's blaming white people, etc., etc. Now, here's the thing about this, right? The reason why some people or some directors would want to confirm the your actual heritage or etc. is because maybe the movie or the story in itself calls for the specific heritage or specific person to be this, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. Now, people are going to say, oh, that's racist or whatever. No, it's not racist. It's not racist at all because, again, when somebody's making a story, they're this specific race for either for a reason or what have you. Or they just happen to be this race, right? That's what it is. But that being said, this movie is probably based in Latin or whatever type of heritage or area that is that's important. So they want to make sure they're getting the right actress for the job that is actually of this descent. So it makes sense in the story wise of the movie, because it's like kind of like putting a black guy in a Latin area and trying to show like Latin heritage or whatever. It makes no sense. You wouldn't put a black person in this story unless it actually calls, unless the story doesn't call for it, right? Or like maybe first it's like maybe the racism or the or discrimination etc. for black people in Latin. I'm saying that it actually happened, but I'm making a point. Like an example, like if there was like discrimination or whatever, you're trying to play like, oh, this black guy had this discrimination in this country or this area. You're trying to portray this and to tell people, okay, this is what happened. That makes sense. But if the story is calling for like for people that are in Latin or in this area or in this country or what have you, then yeah, it makes sense on why you would want somebody of this descent, because it only makes sense to make the story feel more authentic and real. Why she's angry about this, I don't know. Like with my story, it has characters that are from all creeds. Of course, mostly being one family being black. Well, technically the whole cast is essentially white except for one person, which is the character in itself, the main character in itself. So there's that. But the thing is that these characters are here and they're placed there because this is the way this person wanted set. Sometimes the skin tone or the race of the character is important. Sometimes it's not. And this in case it is, and she's calling white executives bad, racist, etc. This is insane. And of course we have more. Snow White star Rachel Zegler looking for sisterhood in Hollywood after rumored Gal Gadot feud. Oh my, why could this be? It couldn't be possible because, Rachel Zegler is for the Hamas side of people and Gal Gadot is on for the Jewish side of people. So you're having two people on opposite ends trying to play and act with each other, which is actually kind of funny and ironic in the movie in itself, because Gal Gadot is on the evil side, which is, the Jewish side, I guess, in this case. And then Rachel Zegler is on the Hamas side, which I guess is real good. So it makes sense. In a funny way, an ironic way, it's good, but you're going to have a lot of tensions here. Says Rachel Zegler is on the hunt for her very own girl gang. The Snow White star said in a new interview that she hopes to find sisterhood in Hollywood and does not believe women in the entertainment industry need to see each other as rivals despite its competitive nature. All I'm ever really looking for is in this business a sister, and they're not always easy to find, she told Other for March 25 Twitter story. We're often told that other women have to be in your competition, and I don't subscribe to that. Goes on to say here, although Zegler, 23, is still searching for strong, supportive friendships, a few women have already stepped up and taken her under their wing. Jamila is like a big sister to me. I love that she has no regrets about being outspoken, about being strong-willed and strong-minded. Her Shazami Fury of the Gods co-stars Helen Mirren and Lucy Liu have also played large roles in her career. They have been in my keepers in all of this, where I feel very held by them. Zegler said. Ariana Grande also recently offered her support as Zegler prepares for the live-action Disney remake to hit theaters, etc. But again, the point being is this woman is just straight up toxic. I don't see why anybody would want to be around this person. She's terrible. If you're associating with her, it probably would lead to bad PR, and probably whatever movie or story or what have you you're doing, it will probably not make it go well because this person is just so god awful to be around, and she's tanking movies left and right here. We'll see on how her new movie does, but I don't think it's going to go well. I think it's going to go terrible, personally. While in search of female friendship in the cutthroat industry, Zegler has learned that there is room for all of us women, no matter what anybody else would have you think. Blah, 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 blah. Don't care. And, yeah. It seems it's not going too well. Okay, and we have this here from The Independent saying, Snow White star Rachel Zegler hits out at white movie bosses after shocking request. So again, it says Rachel Zegler has recalled shocking requests made by white executives when she was in the running to play Maria in Steven Spielberg's. The 23-year-old Latina actor who will play Snow White in the forthcoming live-action remake has revealed that she was repeatedly asked to prove her Colombian heritage to cast as a Latina protagonist in Spielberg's 2021 musical film. And yeah, and it's just like, again, this person is just straight up toxic. She's a cancer to have around. Of course, we have this here. Snow White's disappointing box office weekend could be among Disney's worst live action remakes. That ain't good, right? Disney's Snow White remake has been in plenty of headlines as of late, but more often than not, they have little to do with the movie itself. In fact, early critic reactions suggest that the live-action reimagining surpasses expectations, especially thanks to an inspired performance by the lead, Rachel Zegler. Yeah, I don't know about that one. But there seems to be some problems here. According to the latest projections, though, Snow White is looking for a domestic debut of 45 to 55 million at the weekend box office. Meanwhile, the global weekend tally could reach 100 million, putting the live-action remake at around 150 million by Monday morning. Yeah, that didn't work out so well, did it? The budget for Snow White is reported upwards 250 million, and that's well before the admitted limited marketing campaign is factored in. Well, that's not even counting the reshoots. So, have fun with that one. It goes on to say here, Snow White ranks among the bottom half in opening weekend box office totals for live-action Disney movie remakes and sequels. The closest comparison is Dumbo, which grossed 45 million during its opening weekend from a 170 million production budget. Meanwhile, other titles, well below those two films are Mulan, Cruella, Maleficent, and Alice Through the Looking Glass. Of course, one major factor in some of the aforementioned totals was the COVID-19 pandemic, etc., etc. Of course, we're going to blame the pandemic on those movies. And by the way, all those movies failed. By the way, they did absolutely terrible. They did not do well at all. And it says, as Snow White looks to rewrite history at the box office, which is not, Rachel Zegler is receiving major praise for her performance and revealed to Jimmy Kimmel that an Academy Award-winning director helped her land the lead role. I don't think that was the case. I think it was because she was of a different race. She was not white, and she could sing, and she's on the political side of Disney, and so that's the reason why she was hired, not because of her actual skill, but I digress. Of course, we have this here, saying Snow White is literally ice cold at the IMAX near me. Opening day, barely any showings, and almost no tickets sold. Saturday isn't much better. I can't believe that this movie actually might actually flop. Yeah, and it's to be expected, right? I mean, it didn't get no red carpet. It was pretty much a private screening in the UK. Like, it's not good, guys. Like, this is not a lot of people. This is not a lot of people. This is abysmal. All right? It's getting torched. And of course, from Christian Mayer says, not good. Saturday night, 7:30 p.m. 0 tickets sold. Snow White is dead on arrival. And it's not doing good here. It says kid-friendly. It doesn't even seem the parents are wanting to take their kids to this abysmal showing. Since the arrival of Disney's Snow White is upon us, I decided to check out the cinematic masterpiece performing at my local theater. Here's the result. And it says 2 p.m. screening empty, 4:30 p.m. screening empty, 7 p.m. screening 3 tickets sold, and 8 p.m. screening empty, box office hit. Yeah, it looks like it's amazing, right? It looks like it's doing so well. It's doing so well that everybody wants to see it. And it says not a single ticket has been sold for the three-time showings for Snow White at Texarkana on Friday night. Not a single one. Yeah, so this movie is dead. It is gone. It is forever it is on fire. And Rachel Zegler has a lot to blame for it. And it looks like her movie West Side Story is probably going to follow the same suit if she keeps on opening her mouth and blaming white executives. All right, guys, that's it for the video. Like, subscribe, share. As always, take care, my friends.